Hi guys. We are also gonna make our own texture roller or pattern roller, whatever you want to call it. These are commercially made ones. These are like made out of rubber and put on little handles. So these are pretty nice to have. But I don't have enough to send home to everybody, so I thought it'd be fun for you guys to try to make your own texture or pattern roller. So how these work is you essentially just roll it onto your wet clay and it leaves the impression of the pattern that you've made. So when making our own, there's a couple of ways to do it. One very simple way is to take a chunk of clay. This might be too much. Let's get rid of some of this stuff. And essentially just make a thick coil. So we're gonna roll it into a thick coil. You can use your hands like this to roll it out. I usually start in the middle of my coil and then kind of work my fingers out. You can do it with one hand. And just try to make it as cylindrical as possible so that it rolls nicely. So it's not flat on one end and kind of where it kind of jumps when it rolls. You want to make it as smooth of a roll as possible. So you can roll it out. Typically you want to get it to about maybe just a little over inch thick. Sorry, that's my phone ringing, not a duck in the room. So roll it out. I'd say that's probably okay. It's a little thick. You might want to go a little bit thinner than that, but this will be okay. I'm going to cut off this end because it started folding in on itself. We'll just make it a little cleaner. So yeah, do that. And then what you can do is you can design your own pattern on there. You can take whatever tools you have. I gave you guys some tools here, so you could make like a line texture, or you could do like a hatching or something. Just kind of play around with what textures might be interesting to you. Maybe you want like, if I can, like some polka dots or whatever you want to do. You can also add clay to the surface, so it would leave the impression in the clay versus having it come out toward you. So you could add, since this clay, you might want to score and slip it if the clay feels kind of dry. Actually, you know what? Yes, you should score and slip it because it's a smaller piece and it's just going to fall right off if it's not scored and slipped. So I'm just scoring it. I'm going to grab my slip and we will attach it that way. So get a good amount of slip on there. Just going to slather it on there. And you could make these pieces and let them get leather hard and then attach them. That way you're not going to be putting it on there and then it's going to squish out and then you have to reshape it. Getting to the leather hard stage is kind of nice because at that point you don't have to be as careful when you're squishing things on. So this would actually push into the clay when I roll it, leaving a dot indented into the clay, versus this would kind of, the clay that you're pushing into would come up toward the surface. So these are kind of opposites, but just something to kind of think about. You can add to it. You could add coils. So if you wanted to make like lines, so this would leave a different impression than if I made a line like that. There would be kind of opposites. So again, score and slip to attach that. So thinking about how these patterns were made, this would have, if we're doing this in clay, what I would do is take my drawing tool or some sort of, let's see, I'll use this wooden one here. So what you could do is draw that pattern in there. And these are nice because they kind of pull the burrs off of the, when you pull clay, it has to go somewhere and it comes up on the edge. These tools kind of help clean that up a little bit. So you could draw a pattern into it, or add things to it. So it's kind of up to you. Yeah, so have fun with it. That's one way to make it. I would do my pattern all the way around. Some other things that you can try with this is finding something that would make an impression that you could do along your roller. So you could press something like this doily here, and it will leave an impression on your roller. You might have to push it a little bit harder to get more of an impression, but essentially you'd bisque fire this, and then you could use that to add texture to a surface. So that's one option. Another option is if you wanted to make one that was more hollow like this, you can do that. So what you can do is flatten it out a little bit. Some of you have your rolling pins already, some of you don't. Some of you might just have to kind of throw a slab. You can do that by picking up and throwing it on your board. If it gets really wet on your board, you probably want to flip it over so it doesn't stick. But what I'm doing when I'm throwing it, I'm trying to hit it kind of on an angle so that when I hit it, I'm kind of pulling it this way, and the clay will start getting long. It's almost like a rocking. So it's starting to pull my slab out. Now for those people that have their rolling pins already, you can do some of that, but then you can just pull your rolling pin out to make a nice slab. I would leave it relatively thick, so 1/2 inch maybe, so it's not too fragile. This is also a technique that we would be doing for making cylinders for mugs. So we'll be revisiting this kind of slab rolling soon in the future. And what I took was just a paper towel, cardboard tube. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tape a piece of newspaper onto that cardboard tube so that when I wrap my clay around it, I can pull it off easily. If I don't put the newspaper on there, the clay can stick to the cardboard tube, and it'll be hard to get it off without destroying your clay roller. So now what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to cut this so it's got nice clean edges. Like so. Do a little bit better job here. And you could use a ruler, make it nice and straight and parallel. So now I'm going to start this out here. I'm going to score here because I am going to score and slip these to attach it. Actually, let's do this too. A nice straight edge. So there's a couple of ways to do this, but I'm just going to show you one way real quick. And so what's going to happen is you're going to roll it until you get to this point. So you can see it kind of stops at that point. What you're going to do is you're going to make a mark where that meets up, and then we will cut that excess off. And score it. So there are more technical ways to do this so that you don't have an extra thick spot. But for this purpose, we're just gonna, for the sake of time, I'm just gonna do it this way. Okay, so we're gonna squish that together and we are going to form that tube. And then we can clean up those edges real quick too. So you should have it around your tube. When you're done making it, you should be able to pull the tube out and the paper will come with it. And then you can just pull the paper out of there. So I'm going to use this tool. You guys should have gotten something similar to this. It works pretty nice for smoothing stuff out. Try all your tools and see what works for you. I'm going to use this piece here. something more flat, kind of smooth it out, really combine it nice. You can pull away some of the excess clay too so it's not lumpy, but we can fix that later. And clean up my edges here. So I'll probably fix this too after it's gotten to that leather hard stage. We can cut it so it's nice and clean, if that matters to you. You can also use your rib to kind of clean up some of those edges. And you remember, keep these little bits of clay for adding to your slip. If you need more slip, just throw them in your jar of slip and add more water if you need to, and it'll turn right back into slip for you. So at this point, I would probably create some sort of design. Let's see, I'm gonna do a pattern of bolts. How about that? I find that making sound effects help. So just kind of go around your entire roller, making your pattern or texture. It doesn't have to be anything this patterned either. It could just be like random marks that you find interesting, that might make some interesting impressions on clay when you're rolling it, pulling out big chunks. So experiment, see what looks interesting to you. So what I would do is I would leave this then to get leather hard, and once it's dried a little bit, I would pull it off my tube. So I would just, so you can see my tube under there. You can even do it at this point. But then you can clean up that, you can still see that seam in there. You can clean that up too. That'll help make sure that it stays together. It's not absolutely necessary. I think this would fire and stay together, but it doesn't hurt anything. So then I would have this roller. I could fire this and then roll it. And then this way I have an option to use, my rolling pin or I could go back and use this as a handle. But yeah, so 2 different ways to make your rollers. Whichever one you prefer, I don't really care. Just make sure you make one for class, and we will get these bisque fired so that you can use them for future surface design options. All right. So let me know if you have any questions, and I will answer them best I can. I'm happy to help. So just make sure you send me an email or a message or something, and I can help you out. All right, guys. Have a wonderful day.